Good evening, everyone. How is everybody's weekend? Thank you for tuning in. My name is Lynn Lee, and I'm the Festival Director of Vancouver Asian Film Festival. I'm very happy to bring to you a special event tonight, which is the Asian Canadian Cinema live watch party Q&A of the movie Things I Do for Money by Warren Sonoda. And let us begin by acknowledging the land we're gathered on and broadcasting from is the traditional unceded territory of Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples. We also bring to you peoples from Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people of the East Coast. And this broadcast is actually going to be broadcasted from coast to coast to coast. I'm very excited because we are going to get audience from the Toronto area who might be tuning in for the first time to a VAF event. So VAF is the longest running Asian film festival in Canada, and we've been promoting Asian stories and underrepresented voices for 24 years. And this year is our 24th annual festival, which usually happens in November. And I was very lucky to have met Warren Sonoda this year and very honored that he is actually one of the judges of our annual movie making contest, the Mighty Asian Movie Making Marathon, which is actually happening next weekend on Saturday, August 29th at 7 p.m. Vancouver time, which is 10 p.m. East Coast time. So we'd love for you to tune in for that because you'll get to see 10 amazing films by local filmmakers making 5-minute short films. But tonight, it's all about Things I Do for Money, and it's going to be an amazing interaction between different generations of Japanese people of Japanese heritage. So I'm very, very happy to welcome Yumi Nagashima to the stage as the host to host the Q&A tonight. And she's a lovely comedian actor. And you can find her on YouTube on YumiTube. And we'll maybe be able to see some of her work as well. So let me welcome Yumi.
Thanks, Lynn. Hi guys. How are you? What's up? My name is, thank you, Yumi, like you and me. I am a stand-up comedian, and yesterday I finally got to see the movie Things I Do for Money. It was very thrilling, exciting, sexy, beautiful, and funny.
Whoa.
Yes, it was everything. And then my heart was like really so excited, and I'm super excited to have the writer and director Warren Sonoda and other cast from Things I Do for Money. Let me introduce you a little bit about the writer and director Warren Sonoda. He's BAFTA winning and Emmy nominated director, and directed over 70 episodes of TV shows like Trailer Park Boys, Murdoch Mysteries, Utopia Falls, and 11 more movies like Cooper's Camera, Five Girls, and his new film, Things I Do for Money. So please give him warm welcome. Put your hands together for Warren Sonoda.
Yes. Thank you so much, Yumi. I'm really happy to be here. VAF has been a great experience to work with on MAM, and I'm excited to see what happens next weekend at the big MAM event that's happening. But tonight, I am really happy to introduce my Japanese-Canadian cast of Things I Do for Money. Let's bring him up here. It's Rhett Morita, who plays Tosh. There you go. Hi, Rhett.
Hello.
Who are you playing tonight?
samurai.
Very good. Ed Aoki. Edward is actually the father of the young Max and Theo, but he plays the uncle, just Jimmy, in the movie. And over to my, I don't know what side we're on, but Theodore and Maximilian Aoki are the stars and composers of the movie. It's the first time the movie has been called Sexy, Theo and Max. I just want you to clock that straight from Yumi's mouth that she thought that the movie had those types of qualities. So thank you, Yumi, for that.
It's true. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for watching. Yes, thanks for watching. And you're one of the first Japanese people that we've been able to talk to that has seen it, and we're actually live broadcasting it. So if I may ask the first question to you, like as a you're from Japan and you're you're in the entertainment industry. You're an amazing comedian and actress.
Oh, thank you.
What did you think of our movie? Not being from Canada, but being from Japan. How do you think Japan? What do you think Japanese people are going to think of it?
Oh, I think Japanese people would think like more like tough part of like living in like other countries and kind of like trying to fit in or like trying to survive like as Japanese people, kind of like struggles. Like definitely like I will see like Japanese people will find it very like almost like educating, like like there's like totally whole different paradigm.
Okay.
What's the word?
Like
different perspective of like, oh wow, like what is like to be Japanese in like different countries. Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then but then like also it was like similar part of like elderly people playing bingo kind of stuff is like really similar in Japan, and then they will find like the really like whoa badass, like they are the like really gangster. Yeah.
Was that directed towards Ed? Do you think just Jimmy was pretty badass?
Oh yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll like your videos now.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me, Edward. You are such a like badass uncle.
all uncles in Canada are Japanese Canadians are badass. That's
yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Great. So, do you have any questions for us in terms of after watching the movie?
Oh yes. Yeah, I have lots of questions.
Okay.
How long did it take for Edward and Red to learn Japanese lines?
Straight to it, Red. And Ed, right? She's ruthless.
Because Theo and Max did not have Japanese lines, so I can't really tell. But it's shogunai.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you recognize us as Japanese. That makes me happy. because there are some people who speak Japanese who don't know what the heck I was saying. Yeah, but no. Rhett, do you remember the first time we started? It was like, this is going to be rough.
We could barely get through one sentence, and we just have to say it over and over and over again. And at that point, my heart was beating so quickly. I was so scared when I watched Ed trying to get through one line, and I thought, "Oh no, he can't even get through that one line. I'll never get through any lines if they don't let Ed get through one line."
It was tough. We had great coaches. We had two major ones. We had Alina Miyake and Hide Takaichi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then young Nagafuchi was on set with us as well. So Yumi, there was 3 Japanese people that spoke Japanese helping them for about a month before they even did the scene.
Yeah. Yes. No, it was super accurate.
Oh yes!
Wow!
Accurate. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Like,
Mike, I need a mic to do a mic drop. I want to do a mic drop right now. Just,
yeah.
Can you stop right now? That'd be great.
So for people that are kind of tuning in and you might not have seen the movie, how dare you? But we will be talking about the movie tonight, so there might be some spoilers. This is not a huge spoiler. There's a scene in the movie that's completely in Japanese that Ed and Rhett had to perform, and Ed and Rhett have never. They're not. I mean, Rhett is an amazing cinematographer, so he's been in the film industry for decades as a director of photography, cameraman. But both of them have never acted before, so they had to take and they don't speak Japanese, so they had to take a crash course in speaking it. So when you saw that scene, obviously you didn't know it was coming up. What were you thinking when you first saw it?
Oh,
the scene, the scene in Japanese.
Yeah, I thought like I could feel like more intimacy or like history as a brother, like when they were in Japan.
Vancouver.
Then,
yep.
Oh, sorry, Vancouver.
Yep.
Vancouver. And then when and then yeah, there's like more like, or like it's more coming from the gut area, like when, because like Japanese is mother tongue, so like the deep emotion is tied to Japanese language more, I would assume. So like I feel like more like really like heavy emotions with Japanese language.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
I did not expect that at all, Warren. I've got to tell you the truth.
And were you able to follow along with their spoken word, their Japanese within the scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It was very accurate, like very clear pronunciation.
Yay!
Well done.
Yeah, that's a lot. That was a lot of hours just for like how many minutes? There was a lot of hours put into that.
Yes.
Wait, what do you think, Yumi, of me writing in the card? Wasn't that fantastic?
Yeah, it was the main like.
Just when I'm writing in the card, that wasn't actually me. That was someone else. That was Hide.
Your letter?
Yeah, the letter. We had a special hand actor for that one.
The one thing I do want to say, Yumi, and thank you so much for those kind words, because Ed and Rhett certainly worked their butts off learning Japanese, and especially I work with many actors, and whenever an actor has to do like an accent or especially if they have to do something in a different language, they get petrified. So for Rhett and Ed to do this as first-time actors in a movie, you both, I think, were very concerned about how it would play, especially to Japanese people, right, Rhett, in terms of like how the Japanese people would respond to it, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, as Yumi had mentioned, there is something, and this is going to tie into something about the fact that Yumi, I was in a TV series that came out this year called The Age of Samurai. That's the reason why I was wearing this, which is
and he just froze.
Historical
there you go.
docu drama. Yeah, and in the Japanese language, because we had Japanese actors in this series as well, it has a very lot of weight to it. It's very heavy, and especially in a samurai drama where there's lots of people getting killed, so it immediately has this really powerful feeling to it. And one thing I will say about that is one of the actors during our table read took me aside after the table read and said, when he heard Ed and I trying to do the Japanese scene for the table read, he said the whole film just changed in his mind. He went, what kind of movie is this? Because that seemed to change the entire feeling of the movie when he saw two people suddenly in the middle of this English speaking script suddenly speak Japanese. And at that time, Ed and I were probably mangling it poorly, but no one else in the room knew how badly we were doing our Japanese during a table read. But it just sounded like it was like from a different world, like a different film altogether. It suddenly got injected in the middle of this other film, and and this actor said, "Wow, he said he was so moved when he saw us doing this Japanese scene." That was Marco, by the way.
Yeah. And the other thing, Yumi, about the Japanese in the movie is when we wrote the script, myself and my co-writer Gary Nolan wanted to put a scene in Japanese in it. Me knowing full well that the generation that Ed and Rhett and myself are in, we're Sansei, third generation in Canada. Max and Theo are Yonsei, so fourth generation. But like, our generations don't speak Japanese, and a lot of it had to do because of the internment in Canada, where my parents and I'm assuming Rhett and Ed, your parents were also interned. Do you know the internment camps they were in? Do you recall the names? Because my mom was in Greenwood, and my dad, I think, was in Bayfield, Bay Farm, which was right outside of Slocan.
Yeah, they said, what was it? Oh, no, yeah, I think it's Slocan, so it might have been the same. But they didn't really talk a lot about it, the war.
Yeah,
stories, but it wasn't something that was a lot of conversation about.
And after the war, when our families would relocate, we were given the choice, or they were given the choice of going back to Japan, which had just suffered 2 atomic bombs, and they just went through the war, or go east of the Rockies. And when they settled, my parents settled in Hamilton, and they were raising their children. They didn't want us to, they wanted us to become as Canadian as possible, as fast as possible, to not get beat up and not get picked on, and maybe subconsciously, the experience of being interned and put in prison camps, they were fearful that could happen to their children. So if their children were as Canadian as possible, meaning not knowing Japanese, not being taught Japanese, they would have a better chance. And we put that scene in the movie to acknowledge that there's a whole part of our history, of our heritage, that Ed and Rhett and myself just aren't connected to. And it was sort of our way of like pushing it out front and center for us to deal with. So it was
honoring.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really great. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we have some questions.
Oh yes, we have some live questions coming in from the Facebook feed. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Mary Anchetta from BC, how are you doing? Our Hamilton friend. My very first music video was for Mary Anchetta and Kevin Spencer and the Misunderstood. So she's on the live chat out there. So hello. But go ahead there, Yumi.
Oh yeah. So question for Theo and Max. How does it compare composing for film compared to your work with VersaCello?
Thanks, Christian.
That's a fantastic question, too. I'm just going to start that one off by talking about how when we were doing the film music, probably one of the biggest differences was that we just didn't have time to do the whole thing cello, because it took a lot of time to record and produce the audio recordings of cello. So a lot of it was electronic music. We made like synthesizers off of Logic, and so a lot of that was composing straight on the computer or using like our keyboards and other instruments that we have around the house. So it was a lot of things to like settings on that, and really like writing out music as opposed to like playing it on the cello, which is what we usually do for VersaCello. Maybe Max, you want to talk about that?
And I will say stylistically as well, when we're doing our VersaCello thing and we have 2 cellos, we're performing maybe at a wedding or at a concert, the main piece is the music that we're performing. And so all we're worried about is that, the sound is good, the performance is good. When you're composing for film, and we learned this very quickly through our iterations of different tracks, you're not composing so that the music sounds good. You're composing so that the film is elevated. And maybe that means there's no melody in the cello. Maybe that means there's, different textures and different kind of ambient effects that we wouldn't necessarily play on stage, but they come out in the film. But there's a really fun sequence in there that combines the two, and that's the climax performance at the Amira Mansion. It's a piece that we call Monument. When we had first begun collaborating with Warren and Gary, and we were talking from the very beginning of the project, we wanted this really big climactic cello piece to kind of encapsulate this relationship between the two brothers, the tension, the struggle, the heist, the different narrative elements. And this was five or six pages of script that Warren and Gary had given us with so many different parts of it. It would start off, and it says in the script, the boys start off strong, and then a transition to Mary trying to find Tosh, and for these different parts of the story, we needed a different theme and a different feel.
It's also the end of the movie, Yumi. This is the part where they're playing at the mansion in their suits, so it's like the end of the film, and it has to be as max dramatic as possible.
Right. This is essentially our pseudo audition for Banff. So we put our hearts out, and it just goes on, and then builds an intensity. But you also have to feel it out with the story too. And anytime the characters are talking, it can't be too busy on the cello end, so we bring it down. And then when it comes back to us, and we're really showing off, kind of per se, we're going this virtuoso elements of just a whole bunch of runs and everything. And at the very end of this piece, there is what we all affectionately know as the Achilles heel, which is a very, very hard piece for Eli to play. If you watch the movie, you'd see it all throughout, from the very beginning of the movie, midway through. He keeps on practicing. He keeps on getting it wrong. And it's something that the two brothers are worried about at the very end. Can they get through this piece when everybody's watching?
And that's something that's also different between that and Versacello, is that when we're doing Versacello, I mean, we do try to do the most interesting stuff possible that we can, but also sometimes we're playing for multiple hours. We're going for stuff that goes across the strings pretty easily. This one we knew we had to compose for maximum difficulty.
Well, it had to be three things: very difficult, very aesthetically something, a wow factor that cellists around whoever would see it would be like, that was a hard piece, but it also had to just sound good too.
And it also had to be 6 minutes long.
And also had to be 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
At the end, I mean, and it kind of comes out at the very when you see the film, it's the one piece in the music that's completely different from the rest of it. I guess you have to watch it to know, does Eli make it?
Yeah. Well, was it difficult for Theo to pretend he can't do it when he can do it so well?
We wrote it so hard that I can't really do it that well.
It's almost an impossible segment of cello playing that they basically created. So hopefully cellists out there watch it and go, "Oh my gosh, how did they do that?"
Well, a little unintended consequence too was when we went out to Whistler for the film festival, we went down to Lafayette, Louisiana for the film festival. We'll always play this piece as the promotion for us being there, and we are sweating buckets at the beginning of this performance every single time because it's too hard to play. There's one section that we have no clue how it's going to go. We've played it different every single time. And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a wild ride, but wouldn't have any other way.
Wow, my heart skips every time you guys make eye contact. During, I'm and then I could see Theo was really smiling, oh, now I can play with my big brother, and it's oh, so nice. Yeah.
Kashkoine.
ありがとう。
Great.
Yeah, so Daniel hi Daniel. And Joshua says, watched the film just 2 days ago, super awesome. And Joshua also has a question for Theo and Max again. What was it like getting to star and act with your sibling?
And this is Josh Aries, who was our location manager.
Sorry, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's great. Joshua was our locations manager during the shoot. Remember, Josh was always there, kind of making sure that the doors were open and it was cleaned up after we shot there. So thank you,
Josh.
Hi, Josh. And it's also, yeah, being able to go into like a lead role as an actor, as actors, and work with each other as the main cast was even a better experience than maybe we even deserved for our first time acting, because something we learned through, one of the producers, Laura Norden, was a fantastic coach. And we go out to Toronto and we work with her. We work with our dad and Rhett and Warren and Gary, just so we have the fundamentals of how to act. We've never done it before.
No way.
Never. And so it's terrifying. This entire thing was terrifying.
It blows my mind.
Our minds are blown too, honestly.
Oh,
we don't know what's going on. So. but
wow.
So many of the intense scenes, and I think I'm going to almost accidentally answer a little bit of the question that's further too by Roger. But there's a lot of drama between the brothers. There's a lot of high moments, there's a lot of low moments, there's a lot of sadness, tension, anger. And that would be such an extremely tough thing to do with an actor you've never worked with before, being actors that have never worked in this industry before. But we have played cello with each other for several years, and we've been so close, and we're already so vulnerable with each other and so open that those kind of characteristics you just bring onto screen. And sorry, I just saw a comment come in, but you bring those elements onto screen, and it's already so much more natural to connect with someone like your brother.
Yeah, like me and Max have such a tight bond, like in everything. It's
Kawaii.
Kawaii. Kawaii.
Kawaii.
Kawaii.
So kawaii.
Kawaii.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So this film was your first time acting?
All of ours.
Everyone here.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes, this entire cast right now had never acted before.
What?
Ever. Even in high school, Max and Theo never did drama class or anything. So this is like completely new to them.
Okay, I guess I have to quit acting today.
No, Yumi, don't.
We're all here. We're all here to see you.
Oh my gosh. That was so difficult. Some scenes are so intense, like you drive and then like the first time like witnessing like killing, and then like you're like like the acting was, oh my
what?
gosh.
The method for that scene was this. I knew how mad Warren was going to be at me if I screwed up. I think.
Oh my gosh, it worked so well then.
And we carried that through, honestly.
So much anxiety.
So Josh Aries actually said you got the wrong Josh, but I thought it was Josh Airy because like it's actually Josh Airy.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so
Joshua Aries, you have a doppelganger out here in Toronto working in locations. So sorry about that. My apologies.
Joshua. Sorry. Okay. Moving on to next question from Roger Boyer. Question for the actors. How did the director put you at ease with the dramatic parts of your role?
He did not. And just a shout out to Roger. I actually do know who Roger is. He's a phenomenal director. He also runs the Indigenous Film Summit. And the Indigenous Film Summit starts tomorrow for the next 4 days. So check out on Facebook, Indigenous Film Summit, and watch it. He's got an amazing film coming up called Coffee Express that is going to blow people away. And there's we share a lot of DNA with each other, right, Roger? I think in our movies. So thank you for the question. Take it away. Maybe Ed and Rhett, maybe you want to go first.
Ed, why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. How did the director put me at ease? He really can't. He didn't put us at anyone at ease. But there was a sense of what was it? One thing about Warren is the sense of drive. There's like it's intense and it's just like driven. For me, is my first experience. So the way the team worked was extremely professional. I think for on the set, how did he set us at ease? Well, there wasn't a lot of ease, but there was a lot of like, this has to be done. It's going to be done, and we've got this much time. He was very, very, very what's it called, organized, disciplined, and I think that we fed off of that, and the fact that he had a lot of respect for everybody on the team. So it wasn't a sense of like feeling intimidated, but it was also a sense of you don't want to let Warren down. That's the strong sense.
It's like samurai bushido.
But as well for the boys are performers, and they are hard on each other when they're practicing. They would say, or even when they're composing pieces, they say, that part's really great, but that part really sucks. And they'd be just honest, and that's one thing they made a pact. I mean, actually, once I got on board, we all made a pact. We're not going to ever say it's good if we think it sucks. So we're gonna say.
I didn't know you did that.
Oh yeah, we actually got my scar in my hand still from that. Yeah, we said not. We have to. We can't let Warren down, right? We can't let ourselves down. And for me, I felt I can't let other people who know what they're doing, like even Rhett, he said he hasn't act, but he's been on cinema before. Everyone else has experience. And I said I did not want to I did not want to be the guy who made more work for everyone else. And I think the first day I did, because I shut the car off when I wasn't supposed to. So I felt terrible. But the thing I did when we practicing at home, going through the dramatic scenes, actually we spent a lot of time amongst the three of us just going over the line, saying that this part didn't feel quite right, this didn't feel right. So we actually went over and over again in front of each other. So that actually put us at ease as well too. So when we got on set, we had a sense of the direction was going, and then Warren would give us direction. And again, like I said, professional, but driven and serious. So it wasn't a matter of having to like hone in on the sense of drama. We had a sense of drama just going on to the set.
Did you feel the same, Rhett, or was there just complete unease throughout?
Obviously, my experience is different, which is why I wanted to have Ed begin, because I've worked in the film industry. My father was a director of photography, so I grew up in the industry. I've watched actors either as a young kid or myself as a director of photography for decades. So I've seen those guys on the other side of the camera like my entire life. But this was the first time I was actually on that side of the camera. And part of the reason why I volunteered, as the story goes, to help Warren as far as finding someone to play this part was because I've known Warren for about 14 years.
Oh, probably longer, man. Like,
I know.
We go back to Black Walk days, right? And,
yes.
Yeah.
And so I trust Warren as a director. And honestly, for my first film, because I've actually shot at least 7 movies for first-time directors, I know what it's like to work with a first-time director. And I've actually had to help first-time directors get through movies because I have more experience than they do. So for myself to give up all that control to be in front of the camera, not knowing what I'm doing, I would only do it for the first time with someone who I trusted like Warren. So I would say, in answer to Roger's question, trust is a very important element between directors and actors. And I have a trust for Warren, even if I didn't even know what I was doing. And sometimes what would happen is I would start a scene kind of facing this direction stylistically, and Warren would point me in that direction. I go, what? Oh, okay. And I would just do it because I trust Warren. And that is a very important aspect. Yeah.
And Red had a lot of sort of finesse scenes, like the motel scene when you're with Dax Lowe, who plays Alexi Raduli. Yes. That's one of those scenes where it's a very quiet scene. It was particularly written to take a breath in the movie, because up to that moment, so much is happening in the movie. Yumi, I don't know if you remember, but it's the scene where Rhett's all kind of bundled up in duct tape, and then Alexi Raduli proceeds to beat the shit out of him. But before that, there's this very honest moment, and Rhett, I just remember you prepared so well for that moment, because it was such a real actor moment for you, and like, was that something that you was different? Like, honestly, I can only imagine you being on set as a cinematographer going, oh, this is the way I'm going to light it. But what was it like for you as an actor?
I go very internal. That's one thing I noticed immediately. I just goes all inside myself, and I completely lose myself in what's happening. So I basically lose track of all the surroundings. I just become the character, and I start emoting and acting and saying things. But sometimes I would finish a scene, and I go, I don't even remember what I did. Like, it would just like happen.
Wow.
It flowed at me. Then I go, was that good? I have no idea what happened because I'm not thinking about it. I just let it happen. I work and work and work and practice on everything. And then when you say action, I just go, okay, I just let it happen. And there's none of this, next I'm going to do this, and I'm going to turn my head, I'm going to say my line like that. I don't, at least for me as an actor, I just do it more natural. I just kind of go, prepare, and then just let go. But again, it's easy to do that when you trust a director it's not their first time directing a film. It's much easier to trust someone like Warren than it is for me to trust.
I couldn't imagine doing this as a first film.
I wouldn't. If it was a first time director, I'd say I'm not going to work with you because I know what it's like to work with first time directors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I sense like strong bond between you guys, and I'm jealous.
You can be part of the team, Yumi.
Okay. Yes, I can be like.
We are actually right before COVID hit, and obviously the Friday the 13th of March, 2020 really changed everyone's lives. But Gary and I were actually writing a sequel to Things I Do for Money called Things I Do for Money 2: Tokyo Aria.
Ooh.
Where Theo and Max's characters, it's after the events in this movie, and they're on tour as cello players, and they go to Japan. So maybe we can figure something out.
Oh, that would be great.
You can be part of the criminal underworld with us.
Ooh, yes, and I can experience that strong bond.
Yes.
Actually, there's one more thing I just wanted to add, if I could.
Yeah.
Which is that I do find in this film, it's not really a spoiler, that my particular character, he's almost in his own world. Like, he's a bit lost. Everything I do is genuine, and I find I'm kind of like a balancer to some of the other action. I'm always kind of just reacting to things and trying to make things work, but I'm sort of not in the full dramatic sense in a lot of the sequence scenes, if you will. I mean, that's how I feel about the character.
Well, narratively, Tosh is the stuck element within the narrative, right? He's
correct.
He's entrenched. He owns a construction company, but he doesn't really run it because he's in servitude to Alexi and Brenda.
Yes.
And we really wanted it to ripple who Eli and Nick were, right? So Eli is kind of you. He feels a little stuck, and Nick is off kind of doing his own thing now, getting involved at Link's Bar and working with Alexi. But we wanted to ripple like the Nick and Eli characters with the Tosh and just Jimmy characters. And it's kind of running in parallel. So it's not that you're not doing anything narratively. What you're doing is metaphorically and symbolically showing what would happen to Eli if he doesn't actually step up. Right. And because for Eli, it's all about following the real rules, obeying his parents, doing the right thing. But then slowly, as the movie progresses, he steals a bag of money. He has to steal a $8 million painting. All these things kind of conspire against him. But I mean, Rhett, it's really Tosh's inability at the beginning to move your family forward, and it's the lesson that you teach your sons,
right?
Which I love.
Yes.
So, do you have any other questions there, Yumi, in terms of?
I'd also like to hear how Theo and Max experienced strong bond with Warren.
Oh,
like,
that's right.
What was there any like difficult scenes like that you felt like supported by Warren or?
I definitely I was even gonna I had an idea to hop on there with what even you were saying about how if you can sense like a strong bond in this cast and crew. And Warren created that from the very beginning. Because he had this kind of like singular vision that he had, and then brought on people that he wanted to make feel included, and part of it is going to make a project because we're all passionate about it. Not things we do for money, things we do for
money,
the love of it, and no money. And so from the very beginning, we all kind of got brought into this things I do for money family, and any kind of work we did in the scenes, and with lighters and gaffers and camera people and sets and location and everything and costume, all felt like just a bunch of friends that we were having a really fun time that day. Kind of almost like a field trip to a movie set. And everyone's like, wow, this is so cool.
Well, I think a couple years has kind of put some rose-colored glasses over some of the. It was hard. It was like don't get us wrong. It was like maybe time has aged well your remembrances of how tired you were.
I remember being exhausted for 13 days straight.
Right.
But all the amount of time, and I just wanted to we were there almost every single day, even if we weren't on set, just to soak it in and to be part of the crew and just to see what's going on, so that when we do have a really intense scene, I just know everybody's got our back and everybody believes in the project and us, and from day one, actually from just before the table read, Warren gave us a call and he said, we're about to do the table read, you're about to meet all of the cast and most of the crew, and you two are the main leads, so you have to be leaders. And they're like, Warren, we don't know anything.
I don't care. First rule of being a leader is it doesn't matter if you don't know anything. You just got to lead.
Yeah.
That in a sense, that's also just such a strong belief in us that inspired us to do our very, very best. Also being terrified, but also loving it.
It actually was quite intimidating because we had some really great talents involved,
Colette Zaka,
Dax Lau for playing Alexi.
Yeah, Danilo. I mean, this team here is not representative of the rest of the cast. The rest of the cast, amazingly, they're veteran actors. They have a lot of experience. Yodit Tuadaros, who plays Laura, the figure skater that Theo kind of gets involved with. She's never acted before, but she's been a professional figure skater before. She has some performance background, but we have a whole lot of different ranges of experience and definitely backgrounds and people that've been in the industry, not in the industry.
Wow. It's so and then you guys shoot in 13 days, 18 days?
13 days with what we call main unit days. And then there was 2 what we call pickup days or splinter unit days where Christoph, the cinematographer, and I would run around and get establishing shots and some car scenes and stuff like that. So
isn't it kind of intense?
No, we had so much time. We had all the money in the world, all the time to do anything. Red and Ed did that Japanese scene. We spent three days doing it. So no, it was intense, and it was one of those projects where everything had to just break the right way for it to work. And we were, knock on wood, we were very lucky. Even down to weather. I mean, the weather held. We had one rain day, which we actually canceled the shoot. We went one more day to the right of it, and we missed the rain, which is great. But even the weather for those 3 weeks that we were shooting held out for us. So yeah, we were very fortunate.
Miracle and lucky for a beautiful film. Okay.
Here's another one.
Yeah. Question. Jen Pogu.
Yes. Jen Pogu-san.
Pogu-san. Thank you. Pogu-san, ありがとうございます. Question for Red and Ed. Have you been keeping up with your Japanese lesson? Bravo in the scene.
Well, that Japanese scene is burnt in my head. So actually, that's the only Japanese I know, really. But I did, Jen, get an app for Japanese. So I'm trying to keep the pronunciation up because it was tough.
Interesting. You're gonna have to speak Japanese to Jen then. Jen is actually my wife, but she was very interested to see if Ed and Rhett kept up with their Japanese. Rhett, it looks like you're hiding. Ed, do you want to try some of your Japanese if you remember any of it to Yumi?
Do you want the scene, or do you want a new one altogether? Here's one I've been practicing. Ready?
Okay.
私は日本語が話せません。No, I just mixed it up. Okay, I'll do one.
Okay, do it slower. Okay, do it. Take time.
I understood perfectly.
What did he say?
He just said, "I can't speak Japanese." In Japanese.
Yeah, I've been practicing for all day.
So which means you can, because you just said it.
It's a paradox. It's a paradox. No, but actually, I still remember the lines because they were burnt in my head. It was, you know what, the most difficult thing about speaking Japanese was where you pronounce. Like I found, Yumi, that you pronounce Japanese in a different part of your mouth than you do.
Yeah.
Yep. So I had to try to figure that out. And then hearing it, I can't really hear it. I thought I could because my parents spoke some Japanese sometimes. But when we had the coaches with us, it was tough. But for Jen, actually, I'm going to be Theodore's planning on taking Japanese next summer, and I'm going to try to be along with him, not in the class because I'm not a good student like him. I don't want to be outshone, but I want to practice with him because I just that again, like you say, Warren, like just being introduced to that part of your life that it's not there, and then you're thinking, well, it felt really weird. Why am I having such difficulty speaking Japanese? Right? It should be like something genetic, and I realized it's a huge part of my life and history. And
even our parents, and you know, my mom and dad, amazing parents. They would speak Japanese to each other in the house, but I learned that it was kind of BC slang Japanese. Like it like they kind of mangled English with Japanese, and you know, their parents spoke Japanese because they were from Japan. But okay, so Yumi, what does the word Yoshiharu mean to you?
Yoshiharu mean?
Do you know what it means? Yoshiharu.
Yoshiharu can be a Japanese male's name.
Okay, so when I was a little kid, when my brothers and I would act up, they would call us Yoshiharu. So as I was growing up, I always thought Yoshiharu meant, you know, you're acting up, behave yourself, right?
Right.
So when we were acting up, I'd go Yoshiharu, and then later on, I'm like, you know, I'm talking to my mom and dad, and I'm like, you know, Yoshiharu, and she's like, oh, actually, that's this boy's name that we knew, and he always just acted like a little shit, and so like we just call each other Yoshiharu when someone's acting up. That's the type of Japanese I was taught. That and bakatara and do you chimpuchise?
Chipochise?
Chimpuchise? Chimpo? Anyway, that's the only words I know.
What does that mean? Come on, don't laugh, Yumi. Tell us.
It's
don't hold out.
Something is small.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Wow.
Actually, this might be a great moment to introduce our Toronto friends that are watching. We'll get back to the questions. I see Heather Hawthorne Doyle coming up, amazing director from Vancouver and BC. But I'm just going to share my screen right now and show our Toronto friends the brilliance and genius of Yumi Nagashima. Everyone should right now go to YouTube and follow her YouTube channel, YumiTube. So I'm going to share my screen right now. See if I can do this. Can everybody see that?
No.
No. Am I sharing it yet? Maybe we're waiting for Regina in the background to.
It's not coming. Here comes.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. All right.
Oh my God.
Who is this? Yumi Nagashima, best savage moments of 2018. I'll turn up my volume as high as I can.
Some soccer fans are crazy. I was just in Brazil. Did you know Brazil had 37 soccer stadiums? So virtually every city has a soccer stadium. And when they lose, they riot and kill each other. You shouldn't kill each other. When Japan loses a soccer game, we politely bow, clean the shit out of the stadium, and kill ourselves.
The stylings of Yumi Nagashima.
Oh, thank
you so much.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, well, I wanted because some people might not know you, that you're an internet sensation and a YouTube star. So, and maybe we'll be in the sequel to Things I Do for Money. So you never know.
Oh, that would be fun too.
But yes, Heather Hawthorne Doyle has a question.
Oh yeah. Heather says, for Theo and Max, when did you feel like, okay, we are going to be okay? This is going to be a workout, even though it was a new experience.
Thank you, Heather, for the question. I mean, before we went to even camera, we had those conversations about the script and the performances, the cello performances that we would do in the film. And you know, we were talking with Warren and Gary about, you know, how is this piece Monument at the very end going to look? How is this climactic piece going to look? And we had a lot of talks back and forth about ideas and stuff like that, but they hadn't heard it yet. And I think we had about 2-3 weeks to get it done. So end of January, very shortly before we went to shooting, we went to a recording space in Toronto with Byron Wong, who is our amazing music producer, and Warren and Gary and Jen and a bunch of people came, and it was the first time that we were going to perform what we had kind of come up with to the Inner Circle, and which was a crazy moment, and sort of, you know, very well us knowing that we're about to showcase the talent that we were brought on to this movie to do. So it'd be good.
You had one job.
We have one job. We literally had one job. Actually, we did have a bunch of jobs, but this one was a very, very important one.
Yeah.
And so we played the entire thing through for the first time for everybody. And I think that's when Warren and Gary were like, oh, they're not bad. This is
no, we were absolutely blown away. I just couldn't show you how gobsmacked we were, because we had to parse out the compliments to you, you know. But no, you were absolutely. It was brilliant. The song you created, the songs you've created in the entire film, are brilliant. So, oh, we got a little bit of feedback here from somebody. Oh, is Rhett, is that your headphones? Yumi, is that your headphones? There's a little static. Is anybody hearing that?
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
Oh, do you want to, Yumi? Can you just use your computer audio, or do you have to use your headphones?
No, is this okay?
Good. It's better, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So maybe it was my headphones.
All right.
All right.
Oh yeah, the experience kind of went in waves though, because first there was like composing the monument, which was stressful. We got to that moment, it kind of all worked out. But then there was the acting, which was the whole other beast. and it took a while to get into that. I would say about like maybe like halfway through filming is when I really think like we hit our stride and like felt comfortable
when most of the scenes were done.
Yeah.
When most of the scenes were done, and then like, oh, this is no problem. It's, especially like in the first scene that I get introduced in the movie, and I remember that day in like the Yaguchi house, we called it, in that Airbnb, and you know I'm super nervous because I have to do a good job acting like I'm sleeping on a bed, and you know, my brother Eli comes in the room and wakes me up, and he just literally like walks in the room and punches me in the balls, like literally straight there, which I believe was very handy direction from Warren to get a good reaction to the scene. And you know that's when I knew like, oh, okay, we're I think we're in pretty good hands.
Anything can happen. and really that was a moment. It's very early in the movie where Eli is making breakfast for his older brother because he wants his older brother to get up to go to cello practice.
Yeah.
And the older brother has been out God knows how long, you know, at a bar working. So the first couple takes, Theo would go into the room, and I don't know what you did, Theo. Like you jostled Max, or you
sat on him,
or you know, you kind of tried to wake him up, but it just didn't feel right. So right before the last take, I went up to Theo and I whispered, Theo, do you remember what I said to you?
Yeah, I just remember it was the best words I heard all day that day. It was okay, yeah, this next take, I'll just go in and sack him. I was like, really? And you're like, yes, go for it, man.
Just give it to him real hard, flat, open palm. And then the next day, or in the movie, the next scene, when they're walking to cello practice, we let Max do the same thing back to Theo, where he comes up behind him and rams him in the butt with his cello case. And yes, Heather, that is my secret weapon, the unexpected literal punch to the ball tap. But really, what we wanted to do was establish really early in the movie the relationship these brothers have. That, you know, it's loving, but it's also, you know, they're brothers, and they're real brothers, and they actually have a history of you know, being at each other, and I really thought it was a nice way to start. It also informed people at home that you could laugh while you watched the movie. It wasn't just a drama. It wasn't just a crime movie. We wanted you to have fun watching the movie. So hopefully we accomplished all those different things.
Yeah, there were definitely some like really funny lines.
What was your favorite line from the movie?
My favorite funny line was, Tosh, I made 3-way call, not bad.
That was really good. That was Dax Lowe playing Alexei Raduli with Rhett Morita in the background. Rhett, do you remember that scene, the 3-way call scene? Like, what was like you were in the back, tied up, gagged. Do you remember what was going on?
I was just hoping I didn't have to go to the bathroom. Please, hold on, bladder. Do not have to go to the bathroom. Please.
Wait, how many hours were you like that taped?
I lost track.
Like half a day, really. I mean, you're like almost every scene in the motel, you're tied up.
Right.
Or I'm buried with all the furniture on top.
Yeah. But when we were filming that, I've never asked you, Rhett. I mean, you were literally in the background, tied up in duct tape, gagged, and all of us were like on the other side of this motel room filming the scene. Did you like? How disconnected did you feel in that moment?
Very disconnected, Warren. Again, that's an aspect of like any kind of emergency situation. You kind of go internal. And that's what was happening to me. It was almost like, oh my God, look what's happening. Okay, just calm down, focus on yourself, focus on your breathing. And literally, that's what I was doing. You'd change lighting, change camera setups, and I'd just be thinking about breathing, remaining calm. It was pretty hot that day, so I remember I didn't want to get sweaty as well.
Right. The tape will start coming off. But yeah, expertly edited together by Anna Catley, who just joined us on the live chat. But Anna really is our editor, Yumi, and she did just a fantastic job. Just cutting the film and putting it together. I mean, I think our first rough cut was 2 hours long, and we were able to get it down to 90 minutes, and a lot of hard work there. So thanks, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
There's one thing I was wanted to mention, Yumi, as you probably can tell, it was very easy for me playing the on-screen father to be proud of those two boys. They're so talented. It's like I was getting so proud of them going, they're not really my kids, but I go, God, aren't these boys great? Like, they have so much talent. And the one thing I want to mention, which I heard in a Zoom earlier this week, was Ed said that the boys don't write down any of their music. I remember Ed said this like earlier last week. When they compose, they don't write anything down. They just play out of their head. I said, what? I could not believe when I heard that.
What?
We can
explain it.
We can't confirm.
We can't confirm this is true. It takes too long to write it down. Honestly,
we're kind of bad at it too.
We're also we never really trained in scoring music, so I don't even know how we'd really go about that. But even for something like with such a huge volume of pieces to write for, even when we do Versacello stuff and we do our own arrangements of popular songs, we have like 50 songs on rotation, and I think just with at least my bad organizational ability, I won't know where any of those 50 songs are at any given time. So it's just all up here for all the songs. There's also 50 tracks in the movie to kind of write for ambient tracks, and then Monument, which is like 5 minutes. I wouldn't want to write a 5-minute piece out on sheet paper. That would be like 10 pages. We play like 30 second notes, and there's like 500 notes per like 5 seconds. So it honestly is actually easier to just memorize it.
No.
Yes. They're like Jay-Z. They don't need a pen. They just start going and they don't stop.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
It has changed a lot since we.
Oh my gosh. I'm like so okay. Now I have so many questions. For example, you kind of like make one song and you have to recreate the song again. Every time it's going to be the same one?
At least for the songs that need to be in the film, especially Monument, Crown, and the busking songs. Like, we have to make sure that we record it and then we're gonna play it exactly as it sounds. Otherwise, it's gonna be an issue. It's like the 3 or 4 songs. Whenever we play Monument now and for our live shows, it'll be different every single time, just because we kind of adapt it as we go, and it gets faster every time too. We start at a certain like tempo, and it only increases because I'll speak for myself. I have like a need for speed.
You have a tempo problem, man.
I have a tempo problem.
You have a real tempo problem. Then when you make song and you kind of like, how do you communicate with Theo to how to play together?
Oh, I'll pass on to Theo.
Oh, yeah, because
we've been playing for so long. I mean, we've been playing cello since we were 4, so that's like 16 years now. But we've been playing together for about like 6 years. So since we're like living together, we're going through all the same experiences. We kind of just like in almost like telepathy between us. We have like we can communicate with our eyes basically.
Oh yeah, we've actually we've probably logged 1,000 hours of playing together to the point where like if he moves his head a very particular way, I'll know exactly what he's about to do. And that's the only way we can actually make it work, because our pieces are getting so complex and so fast that when we start playing, especially when like lights are on, cameras are on, or there's 200 people in the audience, we're gonna black out real quick. And no telling what's gonna happen because we're all in automatic mode. And it's an honest, like for real, when you start thinking about what you're playing is when you're gonna lose. It's actually I would love to tell a quick story.
Okay.
When we were playing this.
That's why we're here, man.
Well, we're gonna get it right now. We played a concert at a church out in Stony Creek. A fantastic accompanist that we've known in the musical world, Cristobal Pinto, has hosted this concert for a long time. We played for about 5 years running as Versacello, 2 cello pieces. And a couple of years ago, We keep on upping the ante. We keep on having these bigger, more badass songs. I think we did Imagine Dragons Radioactive for a very, very diverse crowd of like ages and everything. And so we're up there, we start playing, we're getting into it, we're scrubbing away, we're being as like rocky as we can be with it. And the more we go on, like the faster we're getting and the more intense we're getting. And like we don't play out to an audience. We turn our chairs to each other. So we can just watch each other play and just kind of almost ignore what's going on. And so it'll get more and more intense. And at the very end of the song, it happens in the song, but also the way we arranged it is that there's this crazy solo that happens. And so my brother's just scrubbing these 16th notes super hard on the cello. I'm way up in like 20th position, just playing super high. And you know, at any point of time, this can absolutely become a train wreck because there's so much going on at the same time. And it does become a train wreck because I forgot what I was doing. And then I looked at the theater and I was like, what am I playing? And I something random. And I truly blanked. And then because I was playing something completely wrong, I think he blanked too. And now we're playing two completely different things. Now like a dumpster fire because we're on different tempos, we're in different keys. We don't know what we're doing. No one knows what's going on. And the last 5 seconds of the song is like I play something, I think I drop my bow, and then he's still playing, and then ends, and we just kind of freeze. And then, but then, you know, everybody, it was a packed house, everybody stood up and gave us a standing ovation. And everyone just jumped up and started applauding wildly. And we were so confused.
Everyone's a critic.
We just picked up our stuff and ran out before anyone could realize what happened.
Oh my
God! That's what could happen. Is the what I'm alluding to?
It was interesting though, Yumi. You touched on a good point. Is like in the movie you do see them always looking at each other as they play the cello because they're looking for cues off each other. But the very first scenes I did with them, they're used to actually facing each other, right, boys? When you play, your chairs are more or less facing each other, so you can fully see. And the first scene we shot at the Hamilton Japanese Canadian Cultural Center on the mountain, and it was all the music classes, and they were wonderful to let us shoot there. But I'm like, you guys have to sit beside each other. Like you can't look at each other.
Right.
And like I don't even know. Like, did that really faze you when you had to do that?
Yeah, it's honestly unnatural.
Yeah.
But still, like, you know, and honestly, at the same time too, we played for so long that like we can do it off of hearing too.
Right.
So we don't need that, but it helps.
Great.
Wow.
Oh, we got one more question here coming in from Christian there, Yumi.
Okay, Christine, I really liked that Jay Semko of the Northern Pikes performed the closing theme. Can you talk about how it was getting him involved?
Yes, I will. Thanks, Christian. And I just realized Josh Aries, who I thought was Josh Airy, is actually Joshua Aries, who was in MAM. He's an amazing filmmaker from BC in Vancouver. And I'm sorry I got your name wrong. My apologies. But this question is a great question because for those of you that do know the Northern Pikes, they are one of the most iconic rock bands to come out of Canada. Ed and Rhett and myself, we know the Northern Pikes. I mean, when we grew up, we
I shot 2 videos.
Yeah, which videos did you do for the Pikes? You remember?
I can't even remember what their titles are right now. But yeah, I shot 2 music videos for the Northern Pikes. And you shot one as well?
I shot one for Jay Semko. So, you know, they had a huge hit called Teenland, and then they followed that up with Big Blue Sky is an amazing album, but Things I Do for Money was just one of those haunting pieces of music from the 80s. It was 1987 when it first came out.
Yeah.
And so Gary and I, my co-writer, wrote a movie idea in like 2006 called Things I Do for Money. Completely different idea. It was more of a ensemble anthology movie. Still, there was crime elements and everything. But when we started to write this script for Max and Theo, I mean, I always loved the title "Things to Do for Money." So we just said, "Hey, what if this was Things to Do for Money? What do these characters need to do for each other, and what price do they have to pay to do that?" I mean, it's not really things to do for money. It's like things to do for love or things to do for family. That's what really the movie's about. But knowing that, and knowing that there's this huge iconic Canadian song called "Things to Do for Money," I reached out to Jay, who I still keep in touch with, and the Northern Pikes, and they just really loved the idea to do this, and they graciously set up a communication between us, them, and then Universal Music Group, who actually own the rights to the song. And for any filmmakers watching, I mean, Heather Hawthorne Doyle and Josh, we all know how hard it is to get music rights, but they gave it to us, and they not only gave it to us, they allowed us to use it in the movie. So there's a scene where there's a pharmacy, a Turcotte pharmacy scene where Dax Logo's Max is driving the cool car that never works, and all this bloodshed happens, but it's done over the theme of Things I Do for Money. And then obviously at the end, Chris, you pointed out that Jay performs the closing theme. He actually re-recorded those vocals just to put into this movie, which was really nice of him. Wow. But maybe Theo, Max, you can kind of just talk about recording Things to Do for Money or re-envisioning it and how you did that.
Yeah, when we were told by Warren that we're gonna have the rights to be able to use Things I Do for Money and do a cello cover, well, like since 2015, cello covers is what my brother and I do. We love that, and that piece itself is so rhythmic, and has got so many different kind of like plucked elements and melodic elements that we knew it was gonna be a cool one to do, and so I mean to start off we went to Delta Secondary School where our mom works, and Gary Nolan works, and it kind of used part of Gary Nolan's sound room he had in his classroom, and had all like soundproofed, and brought super nice mics that Byron Wong was so nice to lend to us, and just put down all of the cello parts of it. And that's pretty standard for how we go about our recording of our part. But then we learned that we were going to have Jay Semko on the track. And at this point, we had already listened to Things to Do for Money about 350 times. and now we know all of the Northern Pike songs just because, kind of go through the rabbit hole of figuring out, just who the band was. And they're fantastic. And so we knew of Jay Semko. And then we get a call from Warren saying, hey, we're going to have a call with Jay Semko and talk to him about like the vision of how we're going to put this together. So now we're on the phone with Jay Semko, and that was crazy. That's like, he's super chill, down to earth guy, and awesome dude. But we're kind of like starstruck there. Just kind of like, oh, your song's great, your band's great. And I think he was even like, yeah, thanks. Your part's nice too. Like, it's cool. Like, no way. That's awesome. So that was such a cool collaboration, honestly.
And it really adds this layer to the movie. I mean, the whole movie was made with a lot of love. I thank you for noticing the bond between all of us on this StreamYard chat. But mostly, and maybe Rhett, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about this because we had a conversation about representation and how this movie's kind of affected you both creatively and just in terms of making decisions right now. Do you want to just kind of touch on that? Because I think,
sure,
especially for the Vancouver Asian Film Festival audience who might not know any of us or know what we've done, why this movie is special and why making movies and telling stories like this is an important thing.
Hugely important. Thanks, Warren. I'll try to keep this brief because this is a huge story and involves the fact that I'm a second generation DOP. So my father was a director of photography and everyone expected me to follow that path. But in the back of my mind, I always thought about being an actor. And many times when I've sort of stepped back from the film, from my DOP career, I thought about other things I could do. And I've looked at being an actor. But when I first did this maybe 27, 28 years ago in North America, I looked for role models of people, actors I could be. I could be like that Japanese American or Canadian actor. And although I know the few, basically there weren't any names that I could really attach to.
Robert Ito, basically, when I was growing up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, my last name is Morita, which is like Pat Morita, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like Karate Kid fame. But basically in North America, there were very few sort of names that I could say, yeah, I want to be just like that actor. So I kept on putting it aside, saying, well, it's not possible to be an actor because if you look in Hollywood or on television, there isn't any real Japanese actors or Japanese North American actors to follow in the footsteps of. And so I never even considered it until this film happened, at which point two things happened. One, I realized, oh yeah, I forgot. The fact is, 28 years ago, I really thought about being an actor, but then put it aside as being a really stupid idea because it didn't look like it was possible because there were no roles I could see for Japanese actors, really. I mean, outside of martial arts movies, but those generally Chinese actors.
Or Hiro Kanagawa, who is in Vancouver.
Yes.
But he gets all the roles because he's the #1 Japanese actor that everybody wants to work with, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I recognized him. Yeah. But it wasn't 28 years ago. I wouldn't have recognized them, quite honest. Sure. 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And the second thing I realized was how whitewashed I'd become in seeing Asian representation. Because I grew up all through the 70s and 80s and 90s, not really seeing any Asians on the screen. So I didn't realize, oh yeah, I'm Asian, I'm Japanese Canadian. I'm not being represented in any TV show or film that I look at, outside of maybe The Last Samurai in the 90s, which with Ken Watanabe. That was about it. Right? Yeah. So until this movie, that became a big turning point because I realized how A, I wanted to act, and B, also wanted to be a potential role model for other young Asians to say, yeah, you could be an actor like, and at least point at somebody and you go like that guy, like Rhett or whoever it would be. I mean, we have Kim's Convenience right now as far as Asians are concerned. But again, that's as far as Japanese Asians are concerned, there are not, outside of Hiro, there's very little that you can use as an example or role model. So yes, this is a very important film to begin seeing more representation of specifically Japanese Canadians, which I say we're more rare. We're like unicorns.
There's not a lot of us, right? In Canada.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly the same reason I do stand-up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Because are you the only Japanese stand-up comedian in Canada?
Yeah, I would say like there are Japanese Canadian stand-up comedians like who don't speak Japanese very well.
Right.
And I think I am the kind of trailblazer.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a unicorn. You're definitely a unicorn.
Yeah. So that's why I was hearing it. Oh, my fellow samurai.
Well, and that's kind of why we wanted you to come on board and talk with us because we were all very curious how a real Japanese person would receive this movie. We were terrified to think, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? But also, I mean, we've said this in the past, but this is the first Japanese Canadian movie that stars 4 Japanese Canadians that has been sold to the United States and in Canada for distribution. And although we're very proud of that and we're very thankful, we really wish this was like the 12th or the 13th or the 14th film that has done this. So it was just really important for us to sort of engage our audience. And when Lynn and the entire team at the Vancouver Asian Film Festival said, hey, what if we did this sort of panel and Q&A and, we can find another Japanese person to moderate and host, we were thrilled. We were absolutely thrilled because we want to keep the conversation going about making stories for us and for people to kind of enjoy,
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you.
That means a lot.
Well, and thank you for you just being here tonight and calling our film wonderful and sexy. That's the first time we got that one, so we appreciate that.
Exciting, thrilling, funny, and sexy.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
And thank you, Lynn. I know your team and Regina's backstage manning the StreamYard, but thank you for tonight. We really do appreciate it. And hopefully for those of you in BC that might not know any of us except for Yumi, who's famous, of course, please go out and check out Things to Do for Money on iTunes and Apple TV and Bell, Kojko, Rogers, Vimeo, TELUS, Shaw, and Cineplex. So check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, Robin.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we should stay on because Regina is going to